Hello, 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 Broke Feed Podcast. This is Janessa back with another story time. And today we are going to be talking about something a little bit more serious, just because I had a rather fun story time last time based around the same substance. But I do want to talk about my experiences with this in a negative way. So, trigger warning there. This is gonna get kind of dark, but not like super, super dark, because I don't want to go into all the details about my mental health just yet. But this is an attributor to some of the bad things that have happened to me recently. So where do I begin? Like I said in my previous story time, I've kind of been casually drinking since I was 15. I haven't really... back then, I didn't really drink constantly. It was more of like when my parents are drinking, I'll just taste some of their stuff, or I'll ask them to make me something, or I'll drink like something with very, very low alcohol percentage in it. But as the years progressed, I was able to hold my liquor more, still drinking it responsibly, because I was with them, under their supervision. But after my first breakup, things got kind of rocky, because my mental health just kind of got destroyed, and that's a whole snowball. It became a whole snowball of events, because I kept all of my feelings bottled up and needed a way to cope with feeling all the negative feelings that I had been feeling all these years, that I didn't know how to deal with. And I didn't really have anyone to turn to in regards to those negative feelings. I was just trying to cope best I can. And so one of those coping mechanisms evolved into drinking. So basically, it started with me chugging wine coolers to get some sort of buzz. So I'd have a Kahlua and I'd just drink it as fast as I can. And I'd be really guilty about it afterwards, because I know that it wasn't a good thing for me to do, but just kept doing it. And so it started with that, and I mean, initially it didn't seem like it was too bad. And then I found that we had vodka, and nobody in my house aside from me drank vodka. So what I started to do was put a little bit in a glass and just take it back and maybe drink a wine cooler, depending on how ambitious I was. Or I'd convince my parents to make me a mixed drink, and I'd just power it and just be drunk in my room, because then I would feel something, or I wouldn't feel something. It depended on my day. But for the most part, I used it to numb what I was feeling, because it was all very negative, and it made me want to do some very, very destructive things. But again, that is something I will talk about on another podcast, because that's its own thing, and yeah. But yeah, so it started with wine coolers, a little bit of vodka, and then I was able to ease off of it for a little bit, because I was getting a little bit better. Started to do therapy, and I wasn't drinking as much. I was drinking more so for fun, or like casually, as I had done initially. Excuse my dogs. And then it evolved into me drinking lots of vodka. Sorry, it's like I'm trying to piece together what happened, because it's all a blur. But after I started therapy and I came to kind of better place. I wasn't drinking as frequently, and things looked to be getting better. And then I moved to a different house, and my mental health it took a turn for the worst. And I just started drinking whenever I felt remotely negative. Again, it started with wine coolers. Gosh, all these distractions. Started with wine coolers again. I would just maybe power one or two of those. And I think that was honestly the beginning of my senior year of high school that really picked up. Because I was under a lot of stress with my portfolio and people. I had a lot of drama. And as the year went on, I just progressively got worse. I would do the wine coolers. I would drink more than 2 wine coolers. I would drink vodka again, more than I did previously. And like my vodka quantity just progressively became more and more. And it got to the point, at least in the beginning of that, or in the bit of that school year, when I reached the middle, that I was just getting hammered whenever I could, because I just felt horrible all the time. Yeah, it was mostly wine coolers and vodka, but or mixed drinks, whatever I could get my hands on, basically. Which was easy for me, unfortunately. And I don't blame my parents for it at all. I abused their trust, and they know that. Yeah, so I hit maybe the halfway mark of my high school year, and I was under more stress than before. I was just not in a great place. And it got worse. I was just drinking more and more, getting drunk, going to school hungover. I didn't really have much of a support system at school because I didn't hang out with anyone. I was just I'd talk to my friends in the morning. They'd be concerned. I'd see them in the afternoon sometimes, but I'd never really talked to anyone about my problems. I had maybe 3 or 4 friends that knew what was going on. And there wasn't anything that they could do, as much as they tried. But yeah, so halfway through, I was doing really, really bad. And then I met someone, and things got better because I realized that things aren't as shitty as I thought they were. And my brain just kind of delved into some dumb, anxious stuff, but I was drinking less, so that was good. And then as soon as we ended, which was on kind of rocky terms, to be honest, but again, we've since worked things out, which is great, and we're good friends. But it was like right after prom, not like the day after, but like 2 days after, and I thought that things were going in a different direction, but it just ended so abruptly, and I was just hurt because I had really high hopes. And the night that I found that out, I talked to my friends, whatever. They were just like, oh yeah, the normal stuff that friends would say. And then just, I felt that same feeling that I'd felt earlier in the year, and I got blackout, and I passed out probably at like 5 o'clock. Absolutely passed out. Like, I had to stop myself from drinking more. I drank so much. I took a couple shots of vodka, like all as one, so I'd pour myself maybe the bottom portion of a glass and just take it back. And then I'd chug wine coolers. And I think that's what I honestly can't remember. It was just, I blacked out in bed. And I was really upset, and I woke up the next morning hungover. I could barely eat anything because I couldn't hold my food down. And yeah, and I don't blame I don't have any blame on anyone. It's just how I was processing things back then, because I didn't know how to process negative emotions. So after that, I mean, things just got worse again because I was under high stress. I had my friends there, but I didn't feel like I had anyone physically there. And I did some other stuff too. Like, I was balancing feeling like shit with trying to rebound and feel something briefly. So I'd go hang out with, I think the weekend after all of this went down, I got drunk with one of my friends and we hung out at her house and, it was fine. And then the next day I went to my other friend's house for her birthday and we got stoned and that was a great time. And then I'd go home and I'd feel like shit again. Yeah, so that it was at a constant, me getting drunk whenever I felt shitty. And my therapist and everyone didn't know what was going on at this time. I was very secretive about it, except for with the people that had been talking about it with prior. The real bad issues came during that summer and the fall semester of college. So over the summer, I didn't really have very many friends that I talked to frequently. It was just people that were available when they were available. And a lot of them went on vacation and were doing stuff. And I didn't want to burden them. So I was alone a lot. My mental health was horrible. I did not know that I had any sort of mental health diagnosis. I was not on medication. I was just feeling and not feeling. I started to disassociate horribly. I did not feel present. Nothing that I did to benefit myself worked. And I just resorted to hard liquor, basically. Anytime I felt a shred of anxiety or sadness, I would immediately turn to 40% alcohol. I would take shots. I would grab maybe 2 or 3 wine coolers, take them up to the bathroom, and drink all of them. And I basically had to stop myself from drinking anymore by locking myself in the bathroom. And I did this a couple of times throughout the course of that summer, sometimes back to back, sometimes every night, sometimes before I went to go see friends. And I kept denying that I had a problem. I kept saying, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't deal with my problems constantly like this. Like, I'm fine. Like, might be waking up hungover every morning, but I'm fine. And I had one friend that really confronted me. No, I had 2 friends that really confronted me about the issue. One had, or a lot of my friends have some family problems with alcohol and whatnot, but my friend definitely talked some sense into me and helped me realize that I had a problem. And we had a good cry about it, honestly, like at a birthday party, because he didn't want me to die. He didn't want me to succumb to substance abuse. And this other friend, she honestly, without her and him, I would not be here. Because of the stuff that I did over that last summer. Summer of 2018, I should specify. But yeah, she would call me whenever I showed any sign of being inebriated or in pain, and just make sure that I'm not doing anything stupid, that I'm not gonna hurt myself so bad that I die or something. But I felt horrible because this happened a couple of times over the summer. And it was ultimately both of them that talked sense into me and were able to get me to come to terms that, I am an alcoholic and I do have a problem. And I tried to get sober for about a month. I was only really social drinking initially, and that didn't really do anything. It still enabled me to drink, because if I was social drinking, I was social drinking at home, and it was easy for me to just overdo it. And the first time that I had the opportunity to social drink but was trying to get sober was a horrible, horrible first instance. I was trying so hard. It was the same party that my friend and I had a good cry at. Walked inside from that good cry, actually. Saw someone I didn't really want to see who decided to bring a Hydro flask of vodka for whatever freaking reason they thought that was reasonable. They weren't even invited to this party, might I add. And I wanted to drink so bad, because I was like, there's no way I can deal with this. There's absolutely no way that I can deal with this right now. But thankfully, my friend kept me from succumbing to that. She'd take me outside. She'd just get me away. And I did end up just sitting outside for a couple hours, just hanging out, doing my thing. And everything was fine. And I came home, and I did okay for a while. And then that friend went off to college. School started up again, and I hit a new level of low, because prior it was just severe disassociation. I felt like shit every now and again, and I just wanted to make it stop. And then that went next level, and I knew I had some pretty serious problems, because it became an occurrence that was like every time someone got remotely upset with me, or I got honestly remotely anxious, like I could just barely be getting anxious, and I'm like, cool, guess I got a drink. Sad, somebody was angry with me, somebody raised their voice at me, I had a shitty day at school, I'm stressed. Everything that was a negative feeling immediately meant that I needed alcohol in my system. And lots of times that semester, I would show up at school so hungover I couldn't pay attention. I would start falling asleep and stuff. I did have to drop the class, not because of that. It was mostly because I'm just not good at math, and that was a higher level math class. But it really, really didn't help that I was rolling up at tests and lectures, unable to focus, because I just felt so empty and so horrible, and honestly in so much pain, that I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, it was really, really bad. And I still did not say anything to my therapist or my mom, because I didn't want them to commit me to a psych ward, because that was a mention that my therapist had for me over the summer, because I was showing signs of having some serious problems. She's like, if you're going down this rabbit hole, like, we're gonna need to commit you. And I was like, no, I'll fix it. But yeah, it got so bad just before I really started making friends and was talking to people again. I talked to the counselor at school, at my college, and I was like, hey, I want to know if there's any way that I can get you to get me a recommendation for medication. And he asked me if I had a therapist. I said yes. And he basically told me to spill the tea, and I did. And he's like, wow, okay. Yeah, so I think you should tell your therapist that, because you do seem like you have some symptoms of some other issues. And, the basic rundown and whatever. And I did tell my therapist. It took a lot of courage myself to do that. And it was so hard. And I had to talk to my parents about it too, with my therapist there. And I mean, we came to good conclusions. I will get more in depth on that when I'm talking about the other serious story time I really have planned. But I got put on antidepressants, and I can't have alcohol with said antidepressants. So that basically meant I couldn't have any alcohol, and that was perfect. It was really hard for me to quit cold turkey. I still wanted to drink every single time I smelt it, saw it, felt shitty. I was like, fuck, I just want to crack open, like a seltzer or a Mike's or something and just chug it, because that's what I need. That's my poison. And I didn't for months and months. I didn't, and I was really proud of myself for that. And I finally got to a space where I can cut myself off and tell myself, no, you don't need to do this. And I can comfortably drink around people, and I can comfortably be around alcohol when I'm feeling shitty and not want to drink. And I honestly feel like that's, out of any part of my journey in mental health so far, that's the biggest part. Like, that's the biggest thing for me. It's been a year, like, since I was, since that last summer when my friends were calling me and, like, worried about if they were going to see me the next day. And, I'm here. I'm here, and I don't feel the same way I felt last year, which is absolutely amazing. So there definitely is ways to get help, and there is ways to recover. I mean, I'm not saying this is the end of it for me. But I'm good for now, and I'm able to know that I have a problem, and I was able to accept that and nip it in the butt as soon as I could. Because if I had just let this keep going, I honestly don't know where I would be in the next 10 years. If even here, But yeah, I'm really proud of myself for that. While this is seemingly dark and whatever, there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. There is time to get help, and there is time to help yourself. And when you do get that help, and when you are able to help yourself, you feel a lot better. And you could be comfortable being around the things that once caused you so much pain, at least in terms of substances. I don't have experience with hard drugs. I'm hopefully not going to have experience with hard drugs, but I do know that some symptoms are similar, and there's many, many forms of addiction, and alcoholism is definitely one. And it can be very, very detrimental in the long run. But yeah, if you are thinking about having this be a outlet for coping, it's absolutely not. It is so hard to recover from. It took me months, and it's so, so, so hard to say no to yourself and to say no to other people when there's like so much pressure around drinking and whatever. So just don't do it. Just don't. Please. Like, if there's one thing you take away from this, it's A, you can get help, and B, don't become an alcoholic. Even if it's in your genetics, like, just don't do it. Yeah, but I do hope that this does give some insight on this issue. I'm not really trying to preach or anything, but I did want to share my experience so that you guys can understand and hopefully learn from my mistakes. And alcohol isn't all fun and games. There is definitely a consequence to using it in a way that's irresponsible. And I mean, I'm just sharing my experiences. But yeah, that was Broke Feed Podcast. I hope you guys, learned a thing or two. And I'm always here if you need to talk. My @ is Creative Cartoons. Always here. But yeah, have a great day. And yeah, bye.